Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi, Bava Basra DAF Chav Zayin. We are holding on Chav Vava Med Beis, 2 lines off the bottom of the Amid. So Ula told us yesterday, a tree is primarily going to be yonik, going to be drawing its sustenance 60 amma all around. So it's a 60 amma radius for a total of a 32 amma diameter. This piece of property beneath the tree and immediately surrounding the tree is what provides the main, unika, the main source of sustenance for a tree. Now we're going to endeavor to find a source to Ula's halacha. Let's try a Mishnah Mesechah Shvi'is. We all know that on Shemitah itself, we refrain from farming. There's a halacha Moshe Sinai that we extend that prohibition into the 6th year as well. Just as there's Tosefes Shabbos, extending into Friday, into Matzah Shabbos. There's something called Tosefes Shvi'is as well. Now it depends. If it's a Sadeh Lavan, a grain field, you stop working on Pesach. Right? So you can only plow and work until Pesach of the 6th year. If it's a Sadeh Ilan where trees grow, you have until Atzeres, Shvi'is, Shvu'is of the Erev Shvi'is year. Says the Mishnah, Ve'elam Desnan, Shloishe Lanes Shel Gimel B'nei Adam. You have 3 trees, 3 fruit trees, big trees, owned by 3 separate people. Hara'il Mitzdarfen, you can join them, you can combine them, consider them as one entity to generate this so-called Sada Ilan, this tree orchard. V'charshin kol ve'isa b'shvilan. And the Bach adds the words ad hatzeres. So you have 3 large fruit trees owned by 3 people. They join together. They're combined into one Sada Ha'ilan. It's considered like an orchard. And since it's situated on an area which is no bigger than a base sa'ah is 50 by 50 amma, which is 2,500 square amma, it all relates to the trees. It all attributes itself to the tree, identifies as a Sada Ha'ilan rather than just a plain piece of property, because it's all providing sustenance for those trees. So these trees sort of cover this whole area, which is now called a Sada Ilan, which allows you to work on it until Atzeres, until Shavuos of Erev Shemitah. Choshen kol beisa b'shvilan ad ha'atzeres. Now, if we break down this base sa'ah and we split it into 3, that will provide for us the formula of Yanika. How far-reaching is the roots of is the Yanika of a tree, which will explain why this base sa'ah is not considered an orchard, a Sada Ilan, because it's sustaining these trees. It's needed for these trees. It identifies with these trees. Okay, let's break down the base sa'ah into 3, and we'll see if it corresponds to Ula's formula, that a tree is yonik 60 nama all around. Now, Ula's 60 nama formula, says Rashi, ends up totaling 1,024 amma, square ammas. So if you have this area with a 60 amma radius, 32 amma diameter, it's a total of 11 v'chavdalad amma, it's 1,024 square ammas. Now let's go back to the Mishnah and Shvi'is. A base sa'ah is meant to provide for 3 trees. Kama havalahu. So if you split the base sa'ah into 3, if you have the whole base sa'ah and you square it, how many square ammas are there in a base sa'ah? It's 50 by 50. It gives you 2,500 ammas. Kama havalu trei alfi v'heimei agamidi. 2,500 ammas. Kol chad kama mati. Okay, divide into 3. How much is this tree going to get? 800, 33 and a third. Hold it. It's way less than Ula, who gave us the number of 1,024 square ammas. Akati nefishale de Ula, it's way more. Loidak, he wasn't being medactic. He wasn't being exact in his numbers. Says the Gemara, yeah, you can say that when you're being strict. I wasn't being makbid, I was machmir a little. But here, Ula in effect is enlarging the area, allowing more to be considered part of the tree zone. Right? When do we say, oh, we're not being exact? When it ends up making it more strict, yeah, then you have a right to But l'kula loidak mi'abrinan, since when do we say loidak? We're not being exact and precise when it comes to a kula. You're generating a leniency by enlarging the tree area. Says the Gemara, hold it. We're making a big mistake. Mi'amrinan, mi savras biribua kamrinan. Ula's tree zone is meant to be a circle. We were looking at it as a square. So yeah, a square of 32 by 32 gets you 1,024 square amas. But it's way less than that because it's meant to be reshaped into a circle. You have the tree and you have the circular property around it, which is providing the unika for the tree. So deduct from that square, and how much do you deduct when you turn a square into a circle of similar proportions? A quarter. And since when are we speaking about a square around the tree? We're speaking about drawing a circle around the tree with a 32 amma diameter. So how much more area do you find in a square over a circle of similar proportions? A quarter. So now it's no longer, Ula's formula is no longer generating 1,024 amas. Rather, as Rashi explains, if you deduct a quarter, it ends up being 768 square amas, which is great because it's actually less than the shear, the number that we came up with from that Mishnah in Shvius, which is 833 and change. So it's close enough, but not exactly. Says the Gemara, Pashalhu Zayin Meya Vishitin Vitamnaya. Oh, so in any case, back to Ula. If we trim it from 1,024, we turn it into a circle. It gets us down to 768. Akati Pashle Palga Amsa. But you're still missing. Now you're too little. You're too low because 768 is way less than 833 and change. So that extra bit should end up giving you another half amma all around the circle, as Rashi will go through all the calculations for us. So basically, you have a smaller zone than you should. So you're right, in this case he wasn't being accurate and he was being machmer because he was trimming the zone, making it smaller, requiring you to keep because basically how is it a chumrah? Because what he's saying is that you have to keep your tree really far from your neighbor, right? That was Ula's point yesterday. That the tree and its unique zone all has to be in your property. So now by Ula giving us a smaller zone is really being machmer, because in effect he's saying if you're within 16 amma of your neighbor's property, your tree is really living off your neighbor and you can't bring bikurim, it's not your growth. But anything past 16, even within 16.5 amma, it's already called yours, you bring bikurim. And really, you're patur from bikurim then as well, because up to 16.5, you're not yet clear. So really he's being machmer by giving us a smaller number. Now comes a kasha on Ula. Ula says that unless you own, this unique zone around your tree, you're not really drawing from your own property. Here comes a kasha. Toshma koine ilan bekarkoi. If Reuben purchases a fruit tree with some property beneath it from his friend, maybe he has a right to bring the bikurim to Beis Hamikdash, the first fruit, and recite the parsha, the brachas, the psukim, where you're indicating and declaring that in fact it's your growth, it's from your mylav kolshu. We're assuming that this fellow didn't really buy much property, but a little, just around this tree, not 16 amma running. And still we find that the Mishnah considers it his growth, his fruit. No, you don't have amma. In fact, he purchased this swath of land with a radius of 16 amma around the tree, just like Ula says. Tashmai comes another right. He purchased 2 trees. Maybe in this case, unless he stipulated clearly that he's buying property with it, we assume 2 trees don't come along with property. It's not really his. It's not really growing off his property, off his friend's property. So Allah will bring the bikurim, but he can't recite the psukim, which indicate that it's his property producing the fruit. Okay, let's make an inference, a dik, hashleisha. But let's say he purchased 3 trees, then the assumption is that it comes along with property, it's already considered like a field, and in fact it's his property that generated that the growth. Maybe the Vikari can bring it and recite the parasha. My love kolshu. So we're assuming once again that when you get some karka, just a little bit, that's not enough, according to Ula. Lai, says the Gemara, no, hachanami, Yudva here as well was speaking that in fact, with his trees come along this huge piece of property, 60 nama in all directions. Tashmai comes another kasha on Ula. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, this is a Mishnah in Peah. Rabbi Kiva says, karka kolshu. If a person owns even a small piece of karka, chayve peah, so he must provide the peah portion to the aniyim, right, the edge of his field, the crop. Ubi kurim, right, the first fruit goes to the Reis HaMikdash, because of pruzbul. So Rashi explains, right, anticipation of the Shemitah year where the loans, where the debts get sort of cancelled. Hillel HaZakan was masakin at takana, pruzbul, where you sit down, you write up this document where you're in effect handing over your loans to the Bezdin, empowering them to collect your loans, which allows you to collect the loan even after Shemitah. And since typically people will only lend if the recipient of that loan has some property to back up to secure the loan, otherwise it's not something that's commonly done. So a milsa de lo yishchich is something which is not commonly done. Chacham don't deal with it, and therefore the idea of a pruzbul is only relating to something which is routine, something which is standard, a loan which is backed by property, and that would allow you to do the pruzbul as well. So as long as he has even a small piece of property, that's sufficient to allow for the pruzbul. What else does a small piece of property empower you to do? Many halachas. So if a person purchases property which is called yesh lem achrayis, it's secure, it's safe, it's not going anywhere. So there are certain halachas regarding how to acquire these assets. You make a kinyan kesef, shtar, chazaka, right? You pay money, you live it, you work on it, you develop it. So all these are forms of acquisition of karka, but not metaltalin. Mobile items work differently. You need to make a mashicha, physical acquisition, take physical possession. But if you're selling a piece of property, you can make something called kinyan agav. You can bundle onto it, you can bundle with it, even metaltalin. So as soon as you make a proper kinyan on the karka, it's a package deal, and the other items come along with it. How much karka do you need to accomplish this? Even a small, minute piece of karka. Okay, so we have a whole long list of things which a small piece of karka relates to. And amongst them we find that a karka kolshu is chayiv and peah, chayiv and bikurim. There you go. So we're assuming that he has a big tree with a small piece of karka beneath it. And that's enough to be considered his growth. You don't need 16 amma all around. The Gemara, remember, bikurim relates to all the shivas aminim. Right? Not just tree fruit, grain as well, wheat. So he has one stalk of wheat and the karka beneath it. That's all he needs. Dekanami, I'll bring you a raya. Dektani kol shehu shmamina. I'll prove to you that we're speaking about just some grain, because it says he has just a little teeny, minute piece of karka. That's only big enough to grow a stalk of wheat, not a tree. Shmamina. So clearly we're speaking about grain rather than trees. Here comes another kasha on Ula. Ilan miktsase ba'aretz. Miktsase b'chutz la'aretz. Okay, there's a tree situated right on the border. Half in Eretz Yisrael, half in Chutz La'aretz. So the part that grows in Eretz Yisrael is considered tevel, which means that you're obligated to separate the truma and the maser, but not the part that lives in Chutz La'aretz. So what do we do about this half and half tree? Says the Tanakama, tevel v'chulin, mu'ravin zebezeh, every fruit is half and half. It's all mixed up. Divrei Rabbi. Rabbi Shimon Leil Omer, no, it's not so complicated. Just it depends on which side of the tree the fruit is growing. Hagadol b'chi, of the part that's growing on the Eretz Yisrael side, is chayev. Hagadol b'ptur, the part that's growing on the Chutz La'aretz side, is exempt, is potter. So Rabbi says it's all mixed up, and Rabbi Shimon says no, depends which side. Na'ad kan li pligi. The machlekes only revolves around the question of bireira. Elo damar savar yesh bireira. So, this is a shas, a universal shaila of breira. So you have something which initially seems to be mixed up, and then you sort of divide it, you separate it. Right? So, Rabbi Shimon Lil says, yesh breira, which means that you can be mevarer, you can define, you can figure out. Okay, whatever grew on this side, draw its sustenance from this side. I drew its Yanika from this side. Whatever grew on the other side drew its Yanika from the other side. So that's Yesh Brera. Umar Sava Ein Brera. Rebbe says no. The nutrients gets mixed up, and you can't separate it, can't identify what drew from here, what drew from there. So that's a sort of a technical halachic shaila of Brera. But in concept, we certainly see that Aval HaGadol B'Ptur Divrei HaKol Potter. Everybody seems to agree that, let's say, the tree was totally on the Chutz La'aretz side of the border. Even though it's within 16 Am of Eretz Yisrael, Divrei HaKol Potter all agree, whatever grows on that tree is Potter. Despite the fact that it's very close to Eretz Yisrael. It's within 16 Amma, which is that tree zone, which according to Ula provides Yanika, provides sustenance to the tree. And that's from Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara of Mayaskina, no, we're speaking the Mafsik Tsunma. There's a hard rock running along the boundary. So, in this case, if the tree would be totally on the Chutz La'aretz side, it would be drawing nothing from Eretz Yisrael. It would be completely potter. Okay, but in this case, the tree is half and half. Part of its roots are on this side, part on that side, part of its branches on this side, part on that side, and there's a rock coming up right underneath the tree in the middle, separating the Eretz Yisrael side from the Chutz La'aretz side. My time of the Rebbe. If that's the case, if the Yanika is so clearly delineated, everything is running smoothly and directly, so why is Rebbe saying it's all mixed up? Whatever is on this side grew from this side. Whatever on this side grew from that side. And there's a solid divider in between. The Hadri Arvi. Rebbe holds that although down below, beneath the surface, the roots are separate, the Yanika is coming from different sources, from different directions. But once it gets up to the trunk, there it sort of feeds off each other, it mixes into one entity. So you can no longer divide the fruit based on location. What's the point of the machlok? This Mar Savar, Rebbe holds Avira Mebabel, the Yanika, the nutrients. Once it gets up to the Aver, above ground, it all gets all mixed up into one. Umar Savar Hayl Chudei Koi, Rabbi Shmuel says no. Whatever came up from this side stays on this side. V'hai, and the nutrients on the other side, the Chudei Koi stays on its own side. Okay, so we thought we had a kasha and we answered the kasha. Asks the Gemara, now the Gemara is going to ask a kasha on Ula. It's only 16 amas? It's really more. The tree only reaches, the roots only reach 16 amma, no more. But we have a Mishnah which seems to say that it goes even further than that. It goes up until 25 ammas. Remember, you have to keep the tree away from your neighbor's pit, right? 25 amma away. Why? Apparently roots travel further than just 16 amma. You keep your tree from your neighbor's pit 25 ammas away. Amar Abaye, you're right. Meizal Tuva Azli. In terms of traveling, roots will travel more than 16 amma, up until 25. But in terms of drawing sustenance and nutrients, that only happens ela ad sheishesri amma until 16 amma, and then it's done. But past 16 amma, although the roots technically still will extend and travel, and therefore it's detrimental to the neighbor's bar, but in terms of weakening and drawing nutrients off the property, it will no longer do that past 16 amma, which is the ikar mokam unika. So Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar, he quoted like this: Rish Lakish asked Rabbi Yehuda, Ilan asamach l'meitzar, b'soich yudvav amamau. What would you say about a fruit tree growing right near the meitzar, right near the property line, within 16 amma? What's its status? Amar, he says, Gazlanu. It's improper. It's a Gazlan because he's feeding off his neighbor's property. Ve'ein mevin mena bikurim, and he cannot bring bikurim from his tree. It's not really his growth. But ki also Ravin, when Ravin came, he quoted Rabbi Yehuda, and that changed the equation. Rabbi Yehuda, echad ilan asamach l'meitzar, whether it's a tree right near the property line, ve'echad ilan hanoite, or your tree is sort of leaning over your friend's property. It doesn't matter. Maybe bikur, it's fully yours. You can bring bikurim, no problem. You know why? Yeshua, when he allocated Eretz Yisrael, he had this in mind. Don't be mocked, but don't make a big deal. Be meichel each other, and therefore it's considered totally yours. Shalom came because on this condition, Hinchel Yeshua Yisrael Sa'aretz, Yeshua allocated Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so conclusion, Ula tells us the Ikur Makam Yanika of a tree is 16 amma all around. Abaye added a point. True, the although the roots travel further, but the Yinika is only 16 amo. And although Ula tells us that if it's so close to the property line, you can't bring Bikurim, you're a Gazlan, right? But according to the final word named in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, you can because of a special stipulation established by Yeshua. Says the Mishnah. Ilan shu noitel sadei chaviri. So you have your tree, which is leaning into your friend's property, getting in his way. Must he leave it there, or does he have the prerogative? Does he have the ability to trim that tree? I'll give him machresha. Yep. He's allowed to trim your tree, trim some branches to allow him to get through with his machresha, with his plow. And how high? Malay Mardeya. As high as he needs to handle that pole, that stick used to drive the animals, so you can trim as high as he needs to clear the Mardeya. Ubecharav b'shikma. If we're speaking about a carob tree, a shikma tree, which have many leaves, many branches, and create a lot of shade, in that case, he can totally trim your leaning tree. Mishkolis is like a pendulum. So basically, he runs his pendulum right above his property line, and it goes straight up, all the way up to the sky, without limitation. Likewise, Beis HaShalachin. Kol Ilan Keneged Mishkolis. If it's a Beis HaShalachin, which is a field that has to be manually watered, it's a more of a dry type of field, and you want it to be clear and open to allow the rain access to the tree. So any tree that's leaning over onto that property allows the property owner to trim it all the way up without limitation. Likewise, any non-fruit bearing trees allows the property owner to trim them all the way up without limitation. So we have two halachas in the Mishnah. Firstly, we spoke about regular field, and the Tanakhama says typically you only trim to allow the Mardeya to get through, but if it's a real leafy tree, you can go all the way up, clear it all the way out. And then we have Beis HaShalachin, which is a more of a drier type of property, and Tanakhama says, well, in that case, irrespective of the type of tree, you can just trim it straight through. Now comes Abba Shol. The question is, what did Abba Shol mean when he said, Ilan Srak, non-fruit bearing trees, allows a full trim? Was he being machmer? Was he being makel? What was he going on? The first case of the Mishnah, where Tanakama says Chorav and Shikma can be totally trimmed, and Abba Shol is coming to add as well. Well, Ilan Strak, it's not a fruit-bearing tree. Gazante, just chop it, right? Or was he going on the next case of the Mishnah? Tanakama says by a Beis HaShalachin, especially when it's a sensitive field, so you can trim it a full trim, right? Any tree, and Abba Shol is being machmer only a non-fruit tree, but a regular tree you got to be careful with. Iboilu, that was the question. Abba Shol, Areisha Koy, was he going on the first part of the Mishnah? On the next part, on the second part of the Mishnah. Right? Tanakama says in the Reisha that only a Chorav and Shikma allows a full trim, and Abba Shol adds Ilan Strak as well. Or is he going on the Sefer? Tanakama says by Beis HaShalachin any tree allows for a full trim, and Abba Shol's machmer only and Ilan Strak. But a fruit-bearing tree, you should do only a limited trim. So which one? What was he talking about? Areisha Koy, Sefer Koy. Tashma. Here comes a raya that he's going on the Reisha, and he's actually adding, he's being makel. Tashma, the Sanya Beis HaShalachin, if it's a sensitive field, Abba Shol Omer, Kol HaIlan, Keneged Mishkolis, you can totally trim any tree. Why? Because shade harms this type of tree, this type of field. So he's agreeing to the Tanakama that Beis HaShalachin have a blank check. So apparently when Abba Shol said something about an Ilan Strak, he pointed that out. That was going on the Reisha. Shema Mina Areisha Koy. Tanakama says that Chorav and Shikma allows for a full trim by regular field, right? Comes Abba Shol and says Ilan Strak as well. Shema Mina. We can prove the same from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Abba Shol says, Kol Ilan Strak, right? All Ilan Strak, right? Etc. So it goes well if it's going on the Reish. A regular field, Tanakama says, Chorav and Shikma allows a full trim. Hainu detani kol ilan. Comes up a shul and says, I want to add to that. Ilan strak as well. Eloi amr saseifa koy, but he's going on the seifa. Abeis HaShalachim, according to the Tanakama, allows any tree to be trimmed, fully trimmed. Comes up a shul and says, well, only ilan strak. Then he should have said ilan strak. He shouldn't have said kol. Kol sounds like he's adding, he's expanding. Eloi amr saseifa koy, he's going on the second part of the Mishnah, he's limiting. Ilan strak, he should have said only ilan strak. Why does he say kol? Sounds like he's expanding the allowance. Elo, lao, shmamino, aresha, koi, shmamino. Apparently he's going on the resha. A regular field, an ordinary farm. Tanakama says, you know what? A very leafy tree can be fully trimmed. Comes up a shul and says, even ilan strak can be fully trimmed. Continues the next Mishnah. Ilan shunet l'shisarab. You have a tree leaning over the street. Kaitzeitz. So the city can come and trim that tree to allow for the passerby to get through without interference. Kadesha gomel oive v'reichvay, to allow a camel with its rider through. Rabbi Yehuda gomel ton pishton a chavilas meires, a camel laden with a load of pishton or bundles of branches of vine branches. Rabbi Shimon oimer kol ilan keneged mishkolos. You just chop the tree along that property line all the way up. Again, keneged mishkolos, without leaving anything over. Yeah, tumah, because you're concerned about a tumah phenomenon in the street. Maybe there'll be tumah there and the tree is hovering over the tumah, creates an expanded tumah area, because anything under the same roof becomes tummy. So to avoid this issue of the rabbim and the kaihanim becoming tainted by tumah, we just trim those trees straight up. Now the Tanakama indicates to us that you don't have to do a major hack on the tree. Right? The tree is leaning over, the branches are protruding, so you don't have to remove the tree, lest it cause further damage down the road. No. You trim it, come back a month later, trim it again. Man Tana. Who is this Tana that holds? There have been a zaken who comes to halachas of nezikin, basar, umdana, the hashta azlina. We work with our current estimation. We don't have to anticipate future complications, just work based on the present moment. Solve the problem now and worry about the rest later. Amar Shlakas, it's actually a machlokes for Rabbi Lezer, and this is only Rabbi Lezer who holds that if you solved it for the time being, it's enough. It's not. You're never meant to dig a pit, make a hollow cavity beneath the street. You're not allowed to make pits and storage places under the street, lest the ceiling collapse and you're endangering the public. Rabbi Lezer matter. Rabbi Lezer says, look, as long as you have a solid lid on that enclosure, it's okay. The lid has to be strong enough to support a stone-laden wagon. As long as you're safe now, you're good. Chachamim seem to disagree because we're concerned perhaps down the road the lid will, get chewed up and eaten up and collapse. No, Rabbi Lezer says, solve it for the moment, you're good. Which corresponds to our Mishnah. As long as you remove those protruding branches, you're good. We're not concerned about further growth down the road. Says, well, no, Rabbi Yehuda Amar, afilu temer Rabbanon, our Mishnah can work even with the Rabbanon. There it's very different. There it can endanger. Hasam zimna demafchas, over there. Who's checking the lid on a daily basis? Maybe it's gonna, it's gonna weaken. It's gonna, and then suddenly, right, without forewarning, the thing might collapse. But here you see the branches growing. It's clearly visible. As the trees grow, as the branches grow, one at a time. As they come out, he's going to be trimming them. So there's no concern even according to Rabbanan. Okay, Tanakama says, how high do you trim them? To allow a camel and his rider. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Gomel, Ton, Pishton, a camel with his load. Iboilu, which one is higher? Which shear is higher? Shiur the Rabbi Yehuda Nafish. Is Rabbi Yehuda's shear higher than the Tanakama? Or Dilma Shiur the Rabbanan Nafish? Or the Tanakama higher than Rabbi Yehuda? Well, Pshita, it's obvious. The Shiur the Rabbanan Nafish. Tanakama's shear is higher. This is Haggadah Shiur the Rabbi Yehuda Nafish. Because if Rabbi Yehuda goes higher, so the Rabbanan who say that all you need to do is clear for the rider. What about a camel that's laden with bundles? How's it going to get through? B'Shiur the Rabbi Yehuda Hechi Avdi. What are they going to do with Rabbi Yehuda's situation? Says the Gemara Elamai, so what do you mean to say? Shiur the Rabbanan Nafish. Apparently Tanakama's height is greater. So then you can ask the kasha in the reverse. Rabbi Yehuda only requires a shorter area. B'Shiur the Rabbanan Mayavid. What's he going to do with the Rabbanan's circumstance? How is a rider going to get through? He's going to get stuck by the branches. Efsha de gachan v'chalv to say, well, you can just bend down and get through like that. So a person can do that, but a load can't do that. And finally, we have Rabbi Shimon Omer, kol ilan keregam mishkolas pnei atuma. Don't allow trees to cover the street. We're worried about tumah. Tana, we have an abraisa. We're concerned about creating this covered area which will spread the tumah. Pshita, well, obviously. Why do you have to add that explanation? The Mishnah already says, we're concerned about tumah. Right? So what does the Bryce have to add? Says the Gemara, the Mishnah wouldn't be 100% clear if not for the Bryce. Because there are two possible concerns with tumah. One is that, there'll be tumah beneath that branch, and by extending the covered area, you're extending the tumah reach and affecting more people. But then perhaps there's a more basic concern. The trees allow for a perching place for birds who might deposit tumah above the branches, which will affect the people below. And for that, you have a more simple solution than removing the entire branch. Just make it, cut every other branch, so to speak, and have like gaps, which will remove this concern, will remove the perching area. But you don't need to remove the entire branch. Even masnisin, if only from the Mishnah, which makes a reference to tumah, I would think the concern is lest a bird deposit something above those branches. Perhaps a raven will come and bring tumah. A bird will bring tumah, put it on top of those branches. And for that, you don't have to remove the entire branch. Just thin it out a little bit. Just make holes. That's why the Brisa comes and says, concerned about oil creating a covered area, lest this branch concoction make a covered area, and if there's tumah beneath them, it's going to extend its reach further than it should. And to solve that, you can't just thin out the branches. They're still considered an oil. Rather, you have to remove them entirely. Okay, so in conclusion, you have a tree leaning over the street. Tanakam says, allow for a camel and its rider. Rabbi Yehuda says, allow for a camel and its bundle. And Rabbi Shimon says, well, tumah concern requires us to remove the entire protruding entity. Okay, so in summation, we discussed yinika of a tree up to 16 amma, although the roots travel further, but the main yinika is only 16 amma. Ultimately, we say Rikurim could be brought from this type of tree as well, even though it's right next to the property line, because of Yeshua's allowance. We have the halach of a tree reaching over into your friend's property. How far can he trim? And likewise, the halach of a tree reaching over into the Rishus Harabim. Hadran halach lo yachbar. All the best, and B'suras Tevis.